Or the first impression that he got of you was that you may be from the Far East.
Oh. No, sir. No. Not from the Far East.
Nice. Your ancestors were born in Arabia?
No, sir. Born here in America.
Oh, in America. Oh.
Yes.
So they came from Africa.
Yes.
Really?
That's right.
Africa?
Descendant of Africa. Descendant of Africa. Descendant of Africa.
So your father and mother were both colored people?
Yes, sir, they are.
But your skin is lighter than many colored people.
Well, due to the double mixing in our people's blood, you know.
Yes.
And we had them under slave. Yes,
yes. Yeah, you look more like Chinese or Japanese so far as skin is concerned.
Yes. Used to mistake me sometimes for such. And FBI, when they arrested me back in 42 for this teaching, they asked me, did people mistake me to be one of Chinese or Japanese? So I told them I didn't know. They said these things I don't know.
Today, only about 100,000 Khoisan, who are also known as Bushmen, remain. They are variously described as the world's first or oldest people, Africa's first or oldest people, or the first people of South Africa. Their first people status is due to the fact that they commonly retain genetic elements of the most ancient Homo sapiens. Origins. It is suggested that the ancestors of the modern Khoisan expanded to southern Africa from East or Central Africa before 150,000 years ago, so that by the beginning of the mega drought 130,000 years ago, there were two ancestral population clusters in Africa. They were ancestral to the Khoisan and bearers of haplogroup L16 in Central and Eastern Africa, ancestral to everyone else. This group gave rise to the San population of hunter-gatherers. Their nearest living relatives are postulated to be the Hadzada people from north-central Tanzania and the Mbuti Pygmies from the eastern Congo. Looks. The Khoisan are also lighter in skin color than many of their neighbors, but they do not have European or Asian DNA. The Khoisan are also lighter in skin color than many of their neighbors, but they do not have European or Asian DNA. The Khoisan are also lighter in skin color than many of their neighbors, but they do not have European or Asian DNA. Charles Darwin wrote about the Khoisan and sexual selection in The Descent of Man in 1882, commenting that their steatopedia, seen primarily in females, evolved through sexual selection in human evolution, and that the posterior part of the body projects in a most wonderful manner. Most, like East Asians, have epicanthic folds. Most, like East Asians, have epicanthic folds. Most, like East Asians, have epicanthic folds. So, do they have Asian DNA? No, it is in fact the other way round. The Khoisan are actually far older than any Asian DNA. Their ancestors have been inhabiting that part of Africa since before the first migration of H. sapiens out of Africa, which occurred roughly 80,000 years ago or thereabouts. Thus, their DNA predates any haplotype that formed in Asia. So, it is more likely that East Asians have Khoisan DNA rather than Khoisan have East Asian DNA. It is more likely that East Asians have Khoisan DNA rather than Khoisan have East Asian DNA. It is more likely that East Asians have Khoisan DNA rather than Khoisan have East Asian DNA.
there is something that could settle this debate of where the Chinese come from once and for all.
After that,
I'm meeting Professor Jin Li, one of China's leading geneticists. Recently, he led a project that set out to prove that the Chinese evolved independently from everyone else, from Homo erectus, here in China.
before the project started, I was hoping that I could identify or could be able to find evidence that support independent origin of Chinese in China, because I'm a Chinese and came from China, and through the education process, I always believed that there's something special about Chinese.
He singled out a male genetic marker which only appeared about 80,000 years ago in Africa. So any man who carries that marker must have recent African ancestors and can't be descended from the more ancient Asian Homo erectus. Jin took DNA from over 160 ethnic groups around East Asia. Over 12,000 samples. And so, what did you find?
We did not see any, even one single individual that could be considered as the descendant of the Homo erectus in China. Rather, everybody was a descendant of our ancestors from Africa. Rather, everybody was a descendant of our ancestors from Africa. Rather, everybody was a descendant of our ancestors from Africa.
The result couldn't have been any clearer. And how did that make you feel as a Chinese person?
After I saw the evidences that we generate in my laboratory, I think we should all be happy with that, because after all, modern humans from different part of the world are not so different from each other, and we are very close relatives.
It's great, thank you.